Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema Safari. Today's episode, Back to the Future. We're going back to the future, back to the past, whatever you want to call it. Um, so Back to the Future is has become one of the biggest franchises in pop culture. It's referenced consistently. So Back to the Future was created by Robert Zemeckis, Bob Gale, starring Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd in the two title roles of the franchise. And so we're going to talk about its cultural impact, both pop culture and within the film industry, and how different filmmakers, different franchises have used techniques that were used to create Back to the Future in their films and some of the themes that are involved as well. So stick around, hop in your DeLorean as we travel back to the future. So Back to the Future started in 1985 with the first film. It quickly spawned into a huge franchise that included two sequels, a short film, animated series, a musical, a bunch of video games, and of course some theme park attractions as well at Universal Studios around its different various theme parks around the world. I believe some of those attractions did close down within the past, 10, 20 years, but it goes to show how much of an impact the film had and how quickly it grew and impacted the world as well. So we had the first film, 1985. The first sequel was 1989, then 1990 for the third film. Short film was released on Back to the Future Day, October 21st, 2015, called Doc Brown Saves the World. Christopher Lloyd plays Doc Brown, of course. Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox. Now, for big fans of the series, of the franchise, know that originally Michael J. Fox, I don't know if he was originally offered the role as like their first choice, but Eric Stoltz was originally cast as Marty, and he actually filmed a little as Marty with members of the Back to the Future cast. And he wasn't really... The way he was portraying Marty McFly, creators, they just didn't really think he was the right fit for the role. So he ended up getting fired, and ultimately, they did end up bringing in Michael J. Fox, and the rest is history. So at the time, Michael J. Fox, he was also filming the show Family Ties. So part of the reason why he didn't come on at first was because the showrunners for Family Ties didn't want to lose him for filming a big movie, because he was really the focal point of the show. And at that time, the woman, the actress who I think played his mom on Family Ties, she was on maternity leave, so they didn't have her for the show. So if they lost him, they couldn't really afford to at the time. So eventually she came back from maternity leave, so they had a little more leeway to let him go off to film Back to the Future. So for about 4 months, he actually filmed, Michael J. Fox filmed Family Ties from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then he would go over to the Back to the Future set, film from 6:30 to 2 a.m. and then be back on Family Ties at 10 a.m. the next day. So for 4 months, he was doing both. So it just goes to show the dedication, the talent he had for both parts, because of the performances he gave. Amazing. So it just goes to show how much dedication he had. which was great. And an interesting thing I read recently, a lot of the crew on Back to the Future and Leah Thompson, who played Marty McFly's mom in the movies, they didn't view Michael J. Fox as a movie star leading man. They didn't think he really should have been there. They kind of just viewed him as like a sitcom actor. And it was one thing in particular that led to some other things, but there was one scene in the first film where he's back in 1955. He falls out the tree, gets hit by the car, I guess by his grandfather technically, and so he wakes up in his mom's room, and he jumps out of the bed to get his pants on, I guess, and he trips and falls, and that was unscripted. And at that moment, he went with it. He tripped, fell, went with it in the scene, and that's what they filmed and what they used. That was all unscripted, and the crew who was filming that scene saw that. Leah Thompson saw that, and what he did with it, how he used it, and then he also went on to do other improv, do other things similar to that throughout the film. That's what really got them yeah, he's the guy, he's it. So yeah, that was a really big turning moment for a lot of them, and to just see him in a new light. And he went on after Back to the Future to do some other great films, especially in that time in the 80s, 90s. But that was really the big turning moment for him. So, of course, 1985, the first film, we see Michael J. Fox travel back to 1955. He, works to get his parents to, fall in love so he and his siblings don't disappear. Then he also works with Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd, to get him back to 1985, the year he's from. The second film, Back to the Future, Part 2, 1989. So we see him, for part of the film, he does go back to 1955, and we kind of see him seeing himself relive some of the events from the first film, as well as dealing with some new stuff from this current film that happens along the way. And we also see him go to the future, to 2015, and that's where Back to the Future Day comes from, because he travels to October 21st, 2015, which is the day he lands in the future. The third film, Back to the Future, Part 3. We see Michael J. Fox going back to the Western times. It's either the late 1800s, early 1900s. I don't remember exactly. I think it is late 1800s. So after the events of the second film, he goes back. Doc Brown gets trapped in the 1800s, and so he goes back. Marty goes back to try to find Doc, save him, bring him back to 1985, and things happen. And by the end, Marty does end up getting back to 1985. Doc and Clara, who he meets in the 1800s, they fall in love, and so Doc doesn't end up really going back with Marty to 1985, but we see him at the end of the film, him and Clara, they turn this big train into a big time machine, and they have a couple kids now, and they go travel, and we don't really know where they're going, but that's how the films end, pretty much. So then, that's really the films. We have the short film, Doc Brown Saves the World, some stuff happens in that. That was released on Back to the Future Day in 2015. Also in 2015, I believe, Christopher Lloyd, they made a short video where he's just addressing the fans of the franchise, talking a little about how they, just how the fans of your support over the years, thanking them, how the franchise has grown over, at that point, 30 years, how it just impacted culture and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. Just a loving message for the fans of the franchise at the time. You also have the series Back to the Future. It is an animated series that was released, I believe, 2 seasons in 1990, 1991. Christopher Lloyd does voice Doc Brown in the series, and the actress who played Clara in Back to the Future Part 3, I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but she did voice the Clara in the animated series. So that animated series follows them and their kids. Like each episode, they travel to a different place in time, and have adventures. So it's kind of just like a fun kids series. And Marty McFly, he does appear in a couple episodes. I'm not sure how many episodes. I haven't actually seen that show ever. I don't know too much about it. I know Michael J. Fox didn't actually voice Marty in that series. A different voice actor did take over the duties of voicing Marty for the series. But Michael J. Fox was involved at that time with the series. It is technically a sequel series to the films because, timeline-wise, it does take place after, shortly after the events of the third film. But the events that take place in the series are considered a separate continuity. So it's technically a sequel, but also separate. So Back to the Future, beyond all that, it's had a huge cultural impact around the world. And the biggest thing, Back to the Future Day, which is October 21st every year, and most significantly October 21st, 2015, which was the day that Marty landed in the future. There were a lot of promotions from different companies around the world that took part in celebrating that day. So Universal Pictures, they created a trailer for Jaws 19, which is the fictional 3D film that was advertised in the future setting of Back to the Future Part 2. And it's the iconic shot in the film where the hologram shark grows and chomps on Marty. Universal and Mattel, they produced an advertisement for the hoverboard seen in the film. Now, I know people have been waiting for a hoverboard to come around, be created in the real world. And hopefully someday, we'll be seeing a bunch of people just, traveling down the street on hoverboards. That would be the dream. Can't wait for that. Pepsi produced a limited run of the Pepsi Perfect soft drink that was featured in the films as well. The Ford Motor Company allowed users that were configuring a Ford Focus on their website to add a flux capacitor as a $1.2 million option. Nintendo released the game Wild Gunman, which Marty is seen playing in the Cafe 80s scene on the Wii U's Virtual Console service. On the October 22nd, 2015 edition of USA Today, they used a mock front page, which was a recreation of the one that was seen in the film on that day. The back of the mock page contains an advertisement for Jaws 19, as well as ads for the 30th anniversary Back to the Future box set and the Michael J. Fox Foundation. In addition, Nike revealed that they had recreated the Nike Mag shoes that Michael J. Fox wore with the self-lacing power laces in the film. So there was just a lot that to show that there was just a lot that a huge cultural impact that Back to the Future has had around the world, and a lot of different people celebrating the anniversary of the franchise. So the significance Back to the Future has had culturally and within the industry, the concept of time travel, the time travel narrative. So Back to the Future popularized the time travel genre, introduced complex narrative techniques that have been emulated in numerous films and television series since then. Its unique approach to time travel, focusing on the consequences of actions in the past affecting the future, has influenced modern storytelling. Biggest example of that is Avengers Endgame, kind of contradicting that theory with their time heist that the Avengers pulled off in that movie. They heavily reference Back to the Future as well as other time travel films. It was one of like the earlier films that really blended comedy and sci-fi together in having it work. So Back to the Future was one of the first science fiction films to successfully integrate humor into its narrative. This blend of comedy and adventure it set a big precedent for future films, demonstrating that science fiction could be entertaining and thought-provoking. And it didn't just have to be like drama, action, intense. It could work with a blend of comedy, a little more like dark, tone as well. And it's possible. It showed that it's possible to have those mixtures. The film franchise has it's filled with iconic characters and catchphrases. Marty McFly, Doc Brown, very well known in pop culture, and also their relationship has become a template for a lot of buddy duos in a lot of different films as well. Phrases like "Great Scott" that Doc Brown says a lot. It's entered popular lexicon, showcasing the film's lasting influence on language and culture. Some influences it's had on filmmaking, character development, cinematic techniques, cultural references, and the legacy that Back to the Future has had on filmmaking. So the strong character arcs, particularly the growth that Marty McFly shows over the course of each film, it's influenced how relationships, personal growth are portrayed in different films as well. They use those techniques in other films. The film emphasizes the importance of the present in shaping the future, which is a theme that resonates in a lot of contemporary narratives as well. The Back to the Future's innovative use of special effects and practical stunts set new standards at that time for visual storytelling in movies. Its success in that demonstrated that the potential was there for science fiction films to achieve both critical and commercial success, paving the way for future blockbusters. So a lot of future blockbusters similar to Back to the Future, with similar genres, tones. They took a lot from the success that Back to the Future had in building those future films as well. Back to the Future has spawned numerous references in other media, including television shows, video games, theme park attractions, and other films as well. Its influence is seen in various forms of entertainment, from animated series, merchandise, and this has solidified its status as a cultural touchstone. So, Back to the Future has had a huge impact. It's been referenced probably probably one of the most referenced films out there. It's really the techniques that they used at the time. A lot of the films at the time, like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jaws, around like the 70s, 80s, a lot of them were revolutionary in cinema. And Back to the Future is definitely no exception. So we're going to wrap things up with today's episode. So Back to the Future, like I said, huge impact both in pop culture and the film industry. It's left its mark on films, shows, in pop culture. I know some schools also use different themes and aspects from the film in some classes as well. And it just goes to show how big it's grown over the last 40 years and how much it's still relevant in a lot of our lives, even today. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on Back to the Future, on the franchise, which parts of the franchise might be your favorite. So please comment on today's episode, like the episode, subscribe if you're not already, as well as follow us on social media, Instagram, X, and we will see you all next time. Thank you for watching.